Lately, I've wanted to quit. Not everything, just the goals I've been saying are so important to me over the past several months. But I recently, accidentally, discovered a framework that has genuinely helped, and it's the only reason this video you're watching exists because this past week has been a lot, and I was this close to just saying screw it and not making this video, and possibly just not even continuing with this YouTube journey at all. And this framework are the skills related to self-leadership. A skill meaning you can learn it, and you can apply it to yourself in challenging moments. And to understand why it's an effective strategy, we need to understand why we want to quit things in the first place. So here's what has been happening over the past decade of my life throughout my 20s, and maybe it'll be familiar to your own experience. The same pattern keeps happening. I set a goal, I have this initial burst of motivation towards it, and then life starts to happen, I get overwhelmed, and my response to overwhelm is to kick off this mental circular chatter about how it's all kind of pointless, like why bother? I am who I am, no big change is ever really going to happen, so just settle in. The you you're trying to be at the other side of this goal is not actually you and will never be you, so stop trying. It sounds dramatic, and it is, but that's the type of narrative that will be circling around my brain when I'm doing the dishes or laying in bed when I'm in one of these funks. And the more I've opened up about that in the past, the more I found out that other people have the same subtle doubts creep in and contribute to them abandoning their goals. This is something researchers are also interested in. Rumination on goal failure is likely to play a role in prolonging and intensifying what they call negative affect, what I call feeling shit. And that feeling isn't fun. So what I've done in the past is detach, activate the defense mechanism of, I don't really care, so I don't have to feel bummed out about it. The goal was just a checklist. I can numb out this disappointment and just not care. But that's not helpful. It's dangerous to my well-being, and it doesn't have to be like that. So in today's episode, let's talk about one way we can overcome this and break the pattern. In a nutshell, it's applying leadership to yourself, becoming your own effective leader. Here's how I got to this idea. Think about what effective, admirable leaders do, whether it's in a work environment, a community, a family, or someone like a coach or a teacher. Leaders are everywhere, and these effective leaders support their people. They help them see a path forward through challenges. They're empathetic and create an environment where people can express what they need, feel heard, and the leader finds tools and coachable moments to help them progress. They align action with values. And I thought to myself, boy, you know how in shows people will have the little angel and devil on their shoulders to consult with in a pivotal moment? But it's usually themselves. It's a way to highlight the duality of the character, of who they're trying to become compared to the version of themselves that's selfish and crass. I would like a coach on my shoulder, the best leader version of myself, helping me through these challenging times. These times when I feel like quitting, because that's what good leaders do. They would support me through this, help me discover a path forward, give me the tools to get it done, help create a supportive environment. Which means I need to have that leader within me, the skills of that leader to call on in those tough moments. There's a popular phrase in leadership and management that says leadership is a verb, not a noun, which means it's action-oriented, something that is expressed, it's reflected in what you do. So what can we do? What action can we take to lead ourselves in these moments when we want to quit our goals? To become effective leaders for ourselves, we need to understand the situation and context and clearly identify the challenges. Be empathetic, allowing us to truly understand what will contribute to a supportive environment, and offer tools and coaching to move forward. The first thing we need to do, which happens to also be the hardest thing, is to truly understand the situation and context. We need to go meta. We need to take a step back and recognize the challenge we're facing and how we got here, to try to see an overhead view of the situation we're in. One of the best ways to do this when we're talking about ourselves and self-leadership is to journal. Writing and journaling is like having a conversation with yourself, which is perfect when you're trying to lead yourself out of a challenging situation. A way to be proactive about this is to develop an ongoing journaling routine. You may just see the challenges before they begin to fester. If expressing your deep feelings and thoughts isn't something you're particularly comfortable with, it can take some practice to let yourself truly let out what you're dealing with. But doing so is essential to understand what's going on at your core and to best know how to create a supportive environment around yourself. And this is where working with a licensed therapist or a counselor can be incredibly beneficial. For example, I used to think I was impatient, so cultivating patience and discipline was what I needed to work on. But over time, I came to understand that it wasn't so much impatience as it is insecurity. I often look to external validation to ensure I'm on the right path, and when it's not there, I quit and pivot. The impatience is a symptom of the insecurity. In this current example of why I almost didn't make this video and feel like quitting is overwhelm and some conflicting priorities, a time and energy management problem. So we understand the situation and the challenge. Next is to take a breath and connect and be empathetic to the situation and start to design a supportive environment around it from a place of empathy. I used to self-lead without really knowing what leadership style I was using. I think many of us struggle with that. But it was a command and control leadership style. My inner voice would often say, suck it up, deal with it, this is life, get the job done. We often bully ourselves when we feel like we're failing. But I invite you to think about the leadership style you're using with yourself and treat yourself as you would someone you care about that you're trying to help and lead and coach through a challenging situation. Probably with empathy. Your feelings are valid because you're feeling them. You don't need anything beyond that to validate them. Whether or not they're proportional to the situation is a whole other matter and something to consider after you're out of the situation and can reflect on that from a place of security and psychological safety. A colleague of mine that has now moved on to other things, so I unfortunately no longer have the privilege of working with her, would say, we're feeling all the feels. And that's a good thing. It means we care, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of apathy these days, so feeling the feels and truly caring is a genuine and full human experience. That said, when we've connected to that feeling and sat with it and accepted it without judgment, then we can think about how to create an environment of support around it. Asking the question, since we're talking about self-leadership, of what do I need right now? And it's important to note the right now part. It's baby steps. It might be a pause and a drink of water. For me, it was to brain dump everything into the notes on my phone so I could stop the mental chatter and know nothing would be forgotten. From there, you can craft the environment around you. It's an art and it's specific to your needs. If your home environment is contributing to the challenges you're facing, it could be dedicating some time each week to decluttering to help create a space that allows you to breathe. For me, for example, I find noise clutter bothers me, so having earplugs nearby to give yourself a sense of calm can help. There's many options and levels to designing an environment of support. If you're interested in learning more about that, let me know in the comments and we can do some videos specific to that topic. So we've taken that step back to understand the situation and the challenges. We've recognized our feelings from a place of non-judgment, and we've started to create an environment around us that feels supportive by asking what we need in this moment. By this stage, we may be in a place where we can start to think forward and apply tools. Admittedly, this is where it gets really fun and I could talk for hours, but we'll keep it general for today. The tools really depend on the previous steps we've talked about and the challenge you're facing. In my personal example, the tool that saved me here was what I call do your best tools. Some things have the ability to be done to different degrees. Take cooking dinner, for example. It can be a 30-minute one-pot meal, or it can be a meal that takes 2 hours and has a main, sides, and amuse-bouches. Both can be great. No problem with either. The problems typically come when we expect more from ourselves than we have the current capabilities to accomplish. If I only really have the capability to do a 30-minute one-pot meal tonight, but I try to do the 2-hour one, I'm not going to succeed. So I need to be okay with taking a do your best approach. One pot meal it is. I'll make it as healthful and tasty as I can. In this situation, this video hasn't had a lot of fancy edits, images, or deep dive into research because those are the 2-hour meal version of a video for me right now. Instead, we have a dual camera set up so I can make it at least a little visually engaging, and it's primarily information that is accessible for me to pull from up here without requiring hours of reading and research. The tool aspect of this is I identify this and create options with tasks so it's easier to pick what the current do your best version is. A tool is just something you can apply to a situation to improve your ability to take action against it. If I tried to take action against a nail with my fist, that's not going to go well. But if I take action against a nail with a hammer, now we're talking. A tool can be a physical tool or a conceptual one. So if you're in a place where you feel like quitting, I invite you to pause and go through this short self-leadership checklist. Journal, giving empathy towards self, asking what do I need right now, and asking what tool would allow me to do my situational best. By taking some time and going through those 4 points, you may just find that you'll get to a place where you no longer feel like quitting your goal. The relationship between leadership be it for others or self-leadership, and well-being is so underrated. They are two peas in a pod, and if I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self anything, it would be focus on developing leadership skills and learn to apply them to lots of situations, including to the self, with well-being as the North Star. Now, we don't have a weekly roundup this episode because, well, my best for this episode is what you've watched today. So that's our show for this week. Thank you for tuning in to the Wellbeing Weekly Show. My name is Jesse Bourgeois. It has been my privilege to talk with you here today, and thank you for listening. I'll see you all next week.